Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to Trust and Believe. I'm your host, Shaun T. Coming up today, we are talking about stem cells. We are talking about everything recovery. We are talking about not being afraid to ask for help. And we're also going to be talking about how not to judge yourself and also trying to make yourself better in all areas of your life. Get ready to trust and believe.
Somebody say hell yeah!
What's up?
He's better than Oprah.
Come on, y'all. This is Shaun T, and it's time to trust and believe. Hey, what's up? Welcome to Trust and Believe. I'm your host, Shaun T, and today we are going to go on a recovery journey. I want you all to do me a favor before I go into my personal story, and that is close your eyes for a second and think about that time where your body felt really crazy or really uneasy, or maybe it was the day or two after you were very sore after a really intense insanity workout or one of my other crazy workouts, or maybe even a dance workout. And I want you to think about how your body felt. This happens a lot of times in the beginning of the year when people have these New Year's resolutions and they're like, I'm going to work out really hard. And then 2 days later, they're so sore they can't even stand up off the couch or off the toilet. As you think about that feeling, as you think about that pain, or you think about that struggle, I want you to now think about what goes through your mind when you're thinking about what is it that I'm going to do to relieve this feeling. And if you're a person out there who feels the pain and says, you know what, I'm going to skip my workout today. If you're that kind of person, how long does that skipping of the workout last? Does it last 1 day? Do you take 2 days of rest? Do you take 3 days of rest? And then the next thing to think about is how does it affect your mental state as you prolong your quote unquote days off? One of the reasons we work out is so that we can get strong and healthy and stay really fit. But the other side of working out is the recovery and the muscle burn and the tearing down of the muscles and the mental recovery that's needed so that you can continue the journey. Well, today I'm going to take you on my recovery journey, and a really tough lesson that I learned over the last 3 or 4 months, in terms of how to really make my recovery a priority so that not only my body can see and continue to see amazing results, but also how my mind is affected and how my mind can see amazing results. And also, I'm going to talk about how it can affect your relationships, how your personal journey, mentally and physically, can affect your relationships. I know that was a lot, but get ready to trust and believe in your recovery. All right, we are back with Trust and Believe. I'm going to take you guys on a journey, and I'm going to be very transparent and probably a little vulnerable here. As a fitness professional for the last 22 years, 23 years, I pride myself on being fit. I pride myself on having a good body. I pride myself on having good internal health. And I pride myself on having great nutrition, and minus a little donuts here and there. But I pride myself on those things. But one of the things that I've neglected for a very long time is the recovery aspect of what your body needs to feel really, really great. And I'm not saying recovery by way of taking days off. We all know we have recovery days. We all know we have rest days. We all know that if you follow an insanity calendar, you have this many days off so you can not work out. But the kind of recovery that I'm talking about, and the kind of recovery that I've learned about, and I say the hard way, is the recovery that you need to do in terms of taking an active approach on helping your body recovery. What it is that your body needs to recover, whether it's icing, whether it's meditating for mental purposes, or a bunch of other things that I'll talk about today. But the vulnerable part comes here. As you all know, I was in a boat jet ski accident in July, and it really rocked me mentally. What I didn't really realize is how bad it affected me physically. Yes, I had a friend who's a doctor tell me that once I got into that boat accident, every cell in my body was affected. And I was like, yes, okay, I feel it. That's great. But I really didn't attach to what that meant until probably a couple weeks later. But let me go back a year. About a year ago, October of 2019, I was introduced to Dr. El-Amin, who is an orthopedic surgeon, but also a stem cell therapy specialist. He is incredible and amazing, and I went and I got stem cells on my knees because I had really bad knees from dancing, from track and field, and all the sports that I played throughout my entire life. I want to tell you guys real quick how I used to recover. Now, this is a little combination of my past recovery. One, I used to, before the pandemic, I would go to cryotherapy. I've taken a couple cold showers. I would ice here and there. But the key word to that was here and there. I would do it here and there. Most of my recovery days were, all right, I'm going to rest my body. I'm going to take a day off. I might take an extra nap today. I might go play more tennis on my recovery day because I don't have to do Insanity or do one of my workout programs. That's what my recovery used to be. I used to look at recovery as just not working out, but just kind of resting or doing some other activity. And sometimes, I would get a massage often, but I would get a massage. I would sometimes go to cryo. I was like, oh, this is fun. Like, I'll do this. I was doing those types of recoveries more for just like, oh, I'm going to do this because it's like the cool thing to do, but I know it helps. But really my recovery is I'm just not going to work out. But clearly that was not working. I got stem cell therapy on my knees, and I almost immediately felt an amazing change in my mobility, in my recovery. I literally felt like I went back to being a kid again, and by way of being able to jump higher, jump longer, last longer in my workouts, and it was doing really great. My body felt amazing. And then this past summer, because of the pandemic, we started Dig Deeper Nation. And in Dig Deeper Nation, we were doing extremely hard workouts. And I was back to loving power jumps. I was back to loving doing dances where I drop it low, pick it up. I had really great mobility in my legs and in my knees. But after the boat accident happened, not only did my body go into a tightened state, but my mind went there too. And I just went kind of in a downhill slope. I didn't necessarily know how to get out of this rut in terms of my body being super active and mobile, and my body just being excited. And then in addition to that, my mind followed suit. And I was constantly struggling with conquer your mind, conquer your mind. Your body's going to be fine. You just have to push through. You just have to work hard. And eventually it caught up to me to the point where I had to go to Scott. Scott is my husband, for those of you who don't know. And I said, Scott, I think I need stem cell therapy again. Now, the reason why I was nervous to go to Scott is because, to be quite honest, stem cell therapy is very expensive. And you just have to talk to your spouse about things like this. I can't just be like, I'm going to go get this. We have to talk about it. We have to make sure that we can afford it. We have to make sure that it's something that I definitely need. So Scott definitely was like, okay, why do you need it? And I said, more than just my body needing it to recover again, my mind needs to recover. I just felt a lack of energy. I felt a lack of excitement. My sexual drive, my energy, how much I want to dance, like all of these things are really driven by my mindset and me feeling really good and having high energy. Even when it comes to my dancing, I do a lot of TikToks. I went from posting TikTok dances like every day to once a week. And then on top of that, I was asked to develop a new dance program for Beachbody. So in the midst of my body really hurting, I got the opportunity to create an amazing new program. And that was another reason why I was like, I have to do something. I have to get out of this mental rut, and my body needs to get out of this tightened state. Now, let me just explain to you one more thing before I continue with what I did. I want you now to imagine waking up and really having a hard time standing up, not because you're weak, but just because lengthening, stretching, contracting your muscles just hurt. Just walking down the street or trying to pick up my kids just hurt. It was really overwhelming because I consider myself to be a very strong person. And so when that stuff started to happen and it started to take over my mind and my body, I just knew I had to do something. So when Scott approved of me going to get the stem cell therapy for the second time, I was really nervous. Because number one, like I said, it's very expensive. And number two, my body was in such a state that I really didn't know if it was going to work. But I had to trust the process. I had to trust the doctor. And I just had to trust and believe in myself that I was going to do everything I needed to do to aid in the progress of whatever the stem cell therapy was going to do. So I ended up getting on a plane, flying to Atlanta. And even what's very interesting is on the plane, I did a lot of meditating. I did a lot of breathing. I remember it being the fastest flight that I've ever been on, the fastest 3-hour flight that I've ever taken, simply because I was really trying to focus on getting my mind ready for the procedure that was about to happen. But little did I know, this was going to be the most painful procedure that I've ever been through. All right, I'm back and I'm talking about this recovery journey, and I'm about to get into some really scary, interesting stuff. If you're a person that gets very queasy, I would just advise you to maybe, skip sections or push the mute button if you need to, because I'm going to get very graphic here. First, I arrive to the doctor's office, and the first thing that he always does is sits you down for a consultation. Even though he knows what you need and what it is that you're going to do, he sits you down for a consultation because he really likes to question you, to really get into your psyche, to understand what it is that you've done in the past, even if he's worked on you before, and really understand your mental state and why it is that you want to do this. So the first thing we did was we went into the room and we had an amazing conversation. But more importantly, I like to say he was reading me. Like, I'm sitting up here thinking, I'm healthy, I eat healthy, I'm so good, I'm all of this great stuff. And he's like, you're not doing the right things, especially after having a boat accident. We even talked about testosterone and how as men get older, they lose testosterone, because one of the things that was affecting me, and this is very personal, was my ability to get really excited during sex. I was just like everything after the boat accident just took a major hit negatively on my body. And so, I was very vulnerable talking to another man about testosterone and my sex drive and just my strength. And as a man out there, and maybe ladies out there, you can think about, just your ability to be a powerful woman or a great mom or whatever it is that you think about that helps make you powerful. For a man, your sexual drive and your strength and not feeling strong, that is a blow to your ego. That's a blow to everything that you felt or feel like you've been doing to make yourself a really great person. And so the conversation was it was very eye-opening, because you have a medical professional there saying, hey, this is what you need to change. This is what you need to do. And as a person who is a leader in the health and fitness industry, he reminded me that it's more than just working out really hard and just eating really healthy. So here's a little snippet of the conversation that I had with my doctor in the consultation room. Just kind of sit back and relax and understand that you're not listening to Shaun T right now. You're listening to Shaun be very vulnerable.
I have pro athletes right now, Shaun, that literally get IV therapy 3 times a week. Right.
So the only thing that makes, and you'll debunk this fear or theory, is, and I know it's safe, but I always had this thought process of when your organs get too much hydration is not good.
Oh, there's no such thing, because I'm only giving you a liter. I'm not giving you like, right? I'm giving you a liter of fluid, right? But it's not just fluid. In there are the vitamins that your body need, right? The proteins that your body need, the things that need to convert your energy levels, the stuff to get rid of your lactic acid, stuff to get rid of all the toxins. See, this is the game. The game is I work out 6 hours a day, 6 hours a day, 6 hours. I'm burning for 6 hours a day, Shaun. Tell me what you've given my muscles to build back up. Right? Some hummus, some celery. That ain't gonna do it.
Not hummus.
Right? I mean, you're eating healthy, right? A salad, that's not gonna do it.
Yeah, it's
true.
true.
I mean, so if I'm contracting all day, playing 6 hours, doing what I need to do, and I'm burning all that muscle, I'm burning the amino acids, I'm burning those vitamins, I'm burning everything, those minerals, I'm burning those electrolytes, those magnesium, zinc. What are you doing to give that back to me? You're not. So I'm in a deficit. So my cup is always half full. So from a muscle standpoint, from a recovery standpoint, I am working half full, always. And then the next day comes, if I want to recover, then you go again. And all of a sudden, by the end of the week, you're drained. You're drained. And so the next thing is you get tightness, you get muscle cramping, you get all these other things. You start to see these things like, wait a minute, I didn't cramp. I didn't cramp. Right? Well, guess what? That's your body's telling you, Shaun, bro, I'm on E. I'm on E. And he who wins in life is who recovers the fastest.
All right, so after I had the consultation with the doctor, we move into the procedure room. I like to call it the operating room. And like I said, I've gotten stem cell therapy before, so I thought I was ready. I was like, this is gonna be great. I changed my clothes. They clean me up. Everything is fine. And I feel really good. But little did I know, this procedure was gonna hurt worse than any other procedure. And it started with the needle that they put in my hip. Now, why do they put a needle in my hip? The doctor puts the first needle in my hip to numb my hip, because my hip is where they get the stem cells. Now, some people are like, what are stem cells? And I'm not a doctor, but I'm going to give you an extremely elementary version of what stem cells is. Stem cells are the part of your blood that is the youngest part of your blood. So let's just say I'm 42 years old, they get stem cells so they can spin down this blood to get the youngest Shaun T ever. He calls them little Shaun Ts. So basically they spin down your blood after they extract the blood, and what's left are your stem cells. So he's getting parts of my blood that's like 7 years old. All right, so that just kind of helps you understand what the stem cells are. But anyway, back to the needle. The first needle that they gave me was to numb my hip. And the reason why they numb my hip is because there are two great places to get stem cells. One is from what I believe to be the bone marrow in your hip. And the second place to get great stem cells is the adipose tissue in your stomach. So basically, the fat in your stomach. But he said, Shaun, you don't have fat in your stomach, so I have to go through the hip. So this is where you might get a little queasy. So after they put the anesthesia to numb my hip, after they put the needle in to numb my hip, which was the anesthesia, they then take what looks like a straw. Imagine like a very thin red straw that you put in like a cocktail, but instead of it being a straw, it is actually a piece of metal that is a straw, and at the top it looks like it has this kind of little handle where you can spin, almost like to screw something in. I know it sounds crazy. So after my hip is numb, they put this straw-like tube into my hip, and then they take a hammer and he starts hammering. Now, initially, I don't feel anything because I'm numb, but then the deeper he hammers into my hip, then I start feeling a slight bit of sting. So I was like, oh no. And I was like, I need some more anesthesia. So his assistant comes over, puts more anesthesia in my hip, and to the point where I just can't feel anything. And then he starts hammering. Now, I think he's going to be hammering for 10 seconds, and it felt like 5 minutes. So he's hammering. Now, the reason why he's hammering so deep is because the blood that he needs to get is deeper into my hip. Now, I think it's like 3 or 4 centimeters. To some people, centimeters, you're like, oh, that's not that far. But when somebody's banging into your hip, that is far. So he's banging into my hip. He finally gets there, twists a little bit, and now he takes off, I believe he takes off this cap, and then he puts something in so he can extract the blood. Believe it or not, the extracting of the blood from my hip was the first most painful part. And the reason why is because you feel a tremendous amount of pressure when someone's extracting blood from a place that deep into your bone. And you know, when he actually pulled the blood out the first time and I saw it in the syringe, I actually realized before he had even said anything, it's like, wow, my blood is really dark. And I could see on his face, he's like, Shaun, this is not good. Your blood is really dark. And I'm like, I didn't know what it meant, but I know the last time I got my stem cells extracted from my hip, my blood was red. It was like a brighter red. And he was like, you have a lot of toxins in your body. You have a lot of trauma. You have a lot of life stress. And this is where I get like super emotional, because the minute he pulled the blood from my hip and explained to me that my blood being like a burgundy color is from stress, immediately I'm trying to like push away. I'm like, no, I'm fine. And then I just had to like let go. And I was like, oh, like I'm so stressed. Like I don't feel like I can walk. I don't feel like I could get out of bed. Like this is what was going on in my head. I was just like, and it, you know, as a person who likes to really push themselves forward and really continue to dig deep, you know, it was a very humbling experience to be like, you know, there's science, and one of the scientific parts of your body being blood, which is pretty much the most important. Your blood has to pump through your heart. When that tells you a story, you have to believe the story. And so that was when I immediately kind of like, I went through a very like emotional internal place, and I held it in. Like I didn't let anyone know, but it really, really stressed me out, like to the max. It really took me to a level of stress in that room that I didn't think I was going to experience. But anyway, so he started pulling out the blood. He pulled out 1, he pulled out 2. I think he pulled out 3 or 4. And each time he's pulling it out, I feel the pressure. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, can this be over? So eventually he pulls the blood out. It's over. They take the blood and they're about to do something with the blood, which is spin down the blood so that we can get the stem cells from it. But in the meantime, you know, he really took a lot of time to explain to me, you know, what we spoke about in the consultation room, he could see literally just by looking at my blood. And that is why I'm feeling the way that I feel. So he immediately, after seeing my blood, said, you know what, I didn't plan to do this today, but I need to give you an IV. And I was just like, wow, like it was just so crazy, because when I arrived at the doctor's office, I had no idea that this was going to happen. So now I got to sit and I have to get an IV. And I was like, you know, what are you putting in the IV? And so in the IV, I eventually found out that he's doing something that's called a Myers cocktail. In the Myers cocktail, there are just a bunch of great vitamins and minerals that you need for your body to get a great source of energy. And I just remember getting the IV and I just started to get really cold. I was just like, whoa, this is really crazy. This is really cold. And I was just like, what's happening? Now, they put the IV on a very slow drip because they didn't want to like overwhelm me, especially because I just got blood taken out. So they were like, this is going to take about an hour. But about 20 minutes into me having an IV, they then said, it's time for us to take the stem cells that were spun down in the machine and now inject the stem cells back into the parts of your body where you feel the most pain, which were my knees. This situation that was about to happen to me, there's nothing that could have prepared me for the pain that I was about to experience. Okay, everyone, this is really a place where you might just kind of want to like listen with caution. So the first time that I got stem cell injections, if this is my knee, right? Let's just say this is my quadricep and this is my knee and this is the top of my knee. For those who are listening and not watching this on YouTube, I'm going to explain. The first time I got stem cells injections, he put the needle in the top of my knee, but the needle went behind my kneecap. And I felt a little pain and a little pressure, but I was like, oh, that was, that hurt a little bit. Then he did my left knee. I was like, oh, that hurt a little bit, but I was completely fine. This time, the second time around, he went to the side of my knee because he said, not only did he get my MRI and see the wear and tear of my knee, but he also said, I want to get literally right behind the kneecap. Here's a little diagram of the knee so you can see what my knees look like.
This is a great model to go over. So this is your knee in different phases of arthritis and wear and tear. So right here, you can see the blue is the cartilage. So it's your top bones, bottom bone. This is nice and smooth, right? Mm-hmm. That's how the joint works. Over time, you can see this right here, you get cartilage holes, right? You get here.
And
right?
what starts to cause that?
Well, that's the wear and tear. That's
like
the
athletics,
wear and tear over time, injury, get hit by a boat.
But what about people who don't work out?
Well, even more so, it's over time, just wear and tear walking. Everybody's working out in some form, right? They're walking, they're doing what they need to do, but they're not recovering, right? Their muscles aren't holding the bones and the cartilage in the joint in place, so they get wear and tear, or they're overweight. Does that make sense? All right, so you notice you go from here, you got a little bit of spot right there. Go from here, a bigger spot, and then you don't want to get here because this is really bad wear and tear. This is where people need a total knee replacement. So this is over time the progression of injury, arthritis, and this is kind of.
So what is this exactly?
So these are the bone spurs, the osteophytes. This is aging, and you can see the cartilage defects. So if I look at that, this is not a smooth surface anymore. Does that make sense? So as the knee goes into from extension to flexion, running to walking, bending, going straight, you want a smoothness, all right? It has to be a smooth surface. It's almost kind of like if I take a piece of ice and I throw that ice on a smooth surface, it slides. That's how the joint works. What this is like throwing that same piece of ice on a cobblestone. It's not gonna be smooth, right? These are potholes. So you're not getting this smoothness. So what we did was we inject the stem cells and the growth factors. It goes in there and it coats these areas. It helps it regrow. Hopes this so it can become like this again, become like this, become like this, become like that.
Wow.
Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So this is when you're a little boy. This is for many years of wear and tear, and this is when you're an older person. So you're somewhere in here, right around right here, right? You don't want to get here, right? But you still want to work out 6 hours a day.
No, I need to change that.
You know what I mean? You still want to do it. You still want to do other stuff. So these things that we're doing helps sort of kind of fill in those gaps. Helps you out. Helps you sort of kind of heal. Does that make sense?
Thank you for.
Does that make sense? Yeah. So that's kind of the progression.
So when he put the needle behind my kneecap, initially I felt it and I was like, oh, like that is crazy. And I'm not afraid of needles. But it wasn't until he put the stem cells in, where he starts to press the stem cells in behind my knee, did I get the worst pain that I've ever experienced in my entire life. And so I looked down and he had only put maybe a millimeter of the stem cells in. So the stem cells is like a really kind of like pinkish color because they really spin your blood down to, again, get the good parts of your blood. And I knew I was in for it.
It's okay. Okay? Mm-hmm.
And so it took about a minute and a half, what felt like longer. And I just felt this tremendous amount of pain. And then he put some other stuff in my knee. But I will tell you guys, it's the first time that I ever got a medical procedure where I was lightheaded. And I was like, I need to lay down. I need to lay down. And it was the first time where I got a medical procedure where I was like, I don't want him to do the other knee. But this is where the trust and belief and the conquering your mind and digging deeper comes through or comes in. I literally said, Shaun, you have to do this. So when he went to the other knee, I just had to go to a place of understanding and just say, do you want to get better? Do you want to feel good? Do you want to be in a better mental state? And that's what I thought about when he put the second injection in my other knee, which hurt just as bad. I then, a little bit later, got one in my shoulder, and then I got one in my right Achilles. And so the one in my shoulder, which a lot of you don't know about, is back when I filmed Insanity Max 30, I was doing some sort of exercise. I think maybe I was doing like a downward dog or something to just like prepare for my shoot. And my SC joint right here, your SC joint is right under your neck. If you feel those two bones that are right under your neck, popped out. So the Max 30 filming had to be delayed like 3 days, 2 or 3 days, because so that was a long time ago, and it affected my range of motion in my left shoulder. But I felt, oh, I'm fine. Again, I'm fine. But it's been like that for years. So this time he said, no, let's put some stem cells in there. Let's try to help your range of motion and try to make it work. And then the Achilles. And I know I'm giving you guys a lot of my medical history, but the reason why I'm doing this is to let you know you're not alone. And I'm not superhuman and I'm not perfect. But anyway, I have flat feet, so all my life I've had problems with my knees and with my Achilles. And so he put a stem cell injection into my Achilles, and he basically told me, with your Achilles, it's just like this long thing that just needs to stay lubricated. And after years and years of wear and tear, the lubrication just dies down. So these stem cells are going to help go back in, lubricate it, regenerate that area of all the body parts where I got the stem cells injections and make it feel better. I will tell you this. Once I got that final stem cell injection into my Achilles, I felt so much better just knowing that I was done getting these needles. Anyway, cut to the IV finished. The fact that I felt great was just an overwhelming sense of relief. The next morning when I woke up, I was in a tremendous amount of pain. I couldn't walk. I had to text Chip and say, can you carry my bags? Again, asking for help was just like one of those things that kind of took me into this downhill mental spiral, but I did it anyway. So a lot of people out there have a really hard time asking for help. And it really is because, at least for me, asking for help makes me feel weak. Asking for help makes you acknowledge your weaknesses. Asking for help then makes you realize that you have even more work to do. Some people look at asking for help as a stressor, right? So, like, if I ask for help, that means, somebody's going to help me, but that means I'm going to have more work to do. And then that means I'm going to have to go into a deeper state of stress. I remember talking to someone that's very close to me about going to therapy in general. And they said, I don't want to go to therapy because it's going to make me relive the past. And my response to them was, if you don't go to therapy, you're going to be stuck in the past. So for me, I realized that not asking for help keeps me stuck in the place that I don't want to be in. And while I know that about therapy in terms of going to a therapist, I know that. But for some reason, feeling weak and asking for help when it comes to my body specifically, I'm supposed to be Shaun T. I'm supposed to be strong. I'm supposed to be able to do 75 push-ups in a row. But if you don't ask for help, if you don't go get the help you need or work on it, you won't do the 75 push-ups because you ain't doing them now, right? So And that just reminds me that even when I was exercising, I realized I had to take more breaks, which is another telltale sign that I wasn't in a great place in my body. And I was working out every day. So I say all that to say that asking for help will help you get better. It might throw you into a place of internal turmoil because you now have to admit to yourself that you're in a place that you don't want to be in, or admit to yourself that you're in a place where you feel weak. But the end result is better. Asking for help makes you better. So don't be afraid of that. Now, we all judge ourselves, y'all. We all judge ourselves. Most of the time, when we look in the mirror, we look at the thing that we don't like. We don't like our hair. I need a haircut. Oh my gosh, my pants don't fit. It's a little tight right here. I feel bloated. I'm guilty of it too. But one of the ways that I actually get myself out of doing that, I do a few different things. One, and you've heard me say this before, when I look in the mirror, I go to the one thing that I like. I'm like, focus on the thing that you like. And some people say, well, I don't like anything about myself. Well, go get your nails done, or do your hair, or do your makeup, so that you immediately practice, oh my gosh, I feel really good. So for me, I either look at what I like, I'll go put on an outfit, and I'll literally, walk into a room so Scott can be like, oh, you look handsome. He always gives me a compliment, so that helps me. You know what I mean? I get the compliment from someone else. But some of the other things that I do to help practice that is I literally breathe, y'all. And this may not be the most exciting thing to do, and this definitely may not be the most popular thing to do, but about a year and a half ago, Sam taught me box breathing, which I'm sure a lot of you have done before. And now I just take an inhale for 4 seconds or 5 seconds. I hold my breath for 4 seconds or 5 seconds. I exhale, and that releases the mental stress, and I start to think clearly. And it goes to what Scott always says, give me the facts. Or it goes to what I like to say, my friend Sarah Koenig on the Serial podcast says, give me the facts. What are the facts? Okay, maybe you aren't at your fittest, but what are the facts? The facts are, this is what you need to do. You know you need to eat healthier. You know you need to exercise more. You know you need to sleep more. You know you need to take your vitamins. So these are just some of the things that, in this situation, when it comes to my recovery and the way my body was feeling, I had to force myself to do. I had to force myself to do it. Because, again, the reason why people don't take action on judging themselves or being the mean girl in the mirror is because sometimes being mean to yourself feels comfortable. Sometimes being negative feels comfortable. And being comfortable in a negative state for some people, and I think for a lot of people, is much harder than working on yourself to get you to a place where you feel good. They say there's a thin line between love and hate. And there's a thin line between hating on yourself and feeling really good about yourself. And that thin line is the action you take to get better. One step to doing something, to getting better, is like 50 steps in the direction of getting better. When you start working out a little more, or when you just change one thing about your diet, that immediately changes your mindset because you've done something that's good, right? But if you stay in a spot where you're just judging yourself and not liking yourself, you're going to stay in a spot. So you have to change something in the equation in order to get yourself to a place where you feel much better. And for the next 3 days, I was just in a really, really bad place mentally. I know that I had gotten this procedure, and I knew that the procedure was done to make me feel better, but I felt like it had exacerbated my already bad feeling from before I got the procedure. Because before, I felt the lactic acid. I felt tight. I didn't feel great. And then once I got the stem cell procedure, now I'm in a place where for the next few days I have to recover. And then on top of that, I'm not allowed to work out. I'm not allowed to move. I'm going to tell you something that a lot of you may have experienced before. When I don't work out for 3 days and I'm sitting down and I just feel immobile, I start to judge every part of my body. I start to judge my face. I start to judge, I feel bloated. I start to just go on a downhill mental, bashing everything about myself. Now, mind you, I'm doing that, but I'm also trying to combat that with stop being ridiculous, you need this. So there's this tug of war going on in my mind, which is you needed to do this, stay the course. You're horrible. You should have worked out harder before this. There's this crazy tug of war that's going on. Now, mind you, the morning right before I went to stem cell therapy, I was running on a treadmill. I had done a morning meltdown 100 workout. I felt good. I felt like I looked good. I was my skin is glowing. I was all great. Then this happened, and literally 36 hours later, I'm in this place of your face is fat, you're bloated, blah, blah, blah. This is what's happening. And I'm telling you guys this because you're not alone. And I know a lot of you out there do this. If you take a rest or if you have a medical procedure or if you can't work out for something. And the biggest lesson I learned by taking my mind through that mental state was a couple days later when I actually went to my first recovery day. It was a tumultuous, I would say, week from the time I got the stem cells to the time I went to my first recovery day, because I was just really battling the negative thoughts in my mind. But I got up on Thursday morning, a week after my stem cell procedure. I went to get my first IV outside of the doctor's office here in Scottsdale. So I got my first IV. Then I went to cryotherapy. Then at cryotherapy, I did compression therapy. And at that point, I was actually moving again and I was allowed to play tennis. Now, that day, I actually felt great because I was doing something. I was actually taking an active approach. But I still was just I want to get out of this mental state. And while, like I said, moving really helped, I was just waiting for that moment where I started to feel better. And that happened 24 hours after my first recovery day. So Friday, I think it was the fact that I was able to move again. I went to cryotherapy, went to compression therapy, the stem cells started to kick in, and I got another Myers cocktail IV. I felt so much better. I can't even tell you. And the thing that had the biggest jump in positivity, if you will, was this. It was my mindset. And so I texted my doctor and I was like, oh my gosh, I feel really amazing. I did this, I did all this stuff. And he was like, Shaun, your body was lacking all of the things that it needed because stress was taking over your body. And I know you have all heard this before, but stress is a silent killer, y'all. And I hate to be so graphic, but it is. A lot of people will just put stress in the background. They'll just say, oh, it'll be fine. Oh, I'll work on it. Oh, it'll be fine. I'll work on it. But stress, anxiety, or whatever other type of mental health struggles that you might have, and I use stress because everyone deals with stress, it really takes you on a downhill spiral. And one of the things that I also realized through my doctor is it's okay to ask for help. It's okay to be extremely vulnerable. It's okay to admit that you're in a place where you're not okay. It really is okay. But the most important thing is your ability to push past the negativity so that you can take an active approach to making yourself better. Because had I, number one, been afraid to ask Scott if I can go get the stem cell therapy because it's expensive. Number two, which is more number one, if I just neglected my emotions and decided to say, I'm going to fight through this, I'm going to fight through this, I'm going to hide my stress, I'm going to hide my stress. If I would have done that, not only would I not be better, but I would be putting myself in a deeper hole, in a deeper state of negativity. And as you all know, especially here, Trust and Believe, we're all about trusting and believing in yourself. And the best way to trust and believe in yourself is to be honest with yourself, to know, again, and I may sound like a broken record, to know when you need help, and to give yourself the courage to admit you need help, and then take action on going to get the help. I wanted to share this story with you all today because, one, I feel like if I'm not very transparent in what's happening in my life, especially when you talk about things that aren't good, I feel like I come off as a fraud, right? Because in social media or even podcasts or whatever, people see your happy times. They see you jovial and you post pictures and you're smiling, but there's always something that could be going on. There's not always something behind the smile, but a lot of times when you're seeing someone smile, there could be something behind the smile. Yes, there are moments, there are things that I post, and I am really happy when I post pictures with my kids or with my husband or with my friends or all of that stuff. I am happy. They are moments of joy. But after the camera snaps, there's a whole other world that is happening to your friends, to your family, to the people in your life. And I just want to let you all know, while I don't always post about the negative things, I did post about the stem cell therapy. But while I don't always post about the negative things, I want you to know that there are people like me that are going through things, that are going through mental stressors, that are having family issues, and I'm working through it. And I have to work through it in my own time. And I know you have to work through it in your own time. But I really hope that by just hearing a little bit about my stress, my mental stress, how my body isn't perfect, even as a fitness professional, I hope that it helps you say, you know what, let me put my mind and my body in fifth gear and take action on getting better. The biggest takeaway is this: recovery shouldn't just be a day off. Recovery shouldn't just be, oh, I'm going to go, to the spa today, or I'm just going to go shopping. These things are great. They help with your mental stress, shopping, or online shopping because we're in a pandemic, or going to the spa. Yeah, getting in a hot tub and getting a massage. These are great things to do. But I really encourage you all to start taking an active approach on your recovery day. And when I say active, if you can afford the IV, or if you can't, there are tons of supplements out there that give you those vitamins, the minerals that you need to aid in addition to your nutrition. I also realize while Scott and I start out with a salad every night and we eat really healthy, that your body can still be lacking a lot of the nutrients that it needs, even if you eat healthy. Especially somebody like me who is developing a dance program. I try to do some bonus workouts for you lovely people in my fitness community. In addition to that, my mental stress release is playing tennis. And I dance for TikToks and social media because I think it's fun. So everything that I'm doing is actually adding more lactic acid buildup, breaking my muscles down more. And so I have now set myself up in a schedule that my recovery days are not just, I'm not going to work out today. My recovery days are going to get my IV, going to cryotherapy, going to compression therapy. Next week, I'm going to start hyperbaric chamber therapy, and I'm also going to go in the infrared sauna. Now, I know that not everyone can afford these things. That's why I say supplements are really, really great. But if you can try once a month to do one of these procedures that kind of help you recover, I just really, really recommend it. In the minimal state, you can stretch every day and you can get some ice, wrap your knees, 20 minutes on, 20 minutes off, and try to do as much yoga as you can to keep your body limber And then obviously a lot of people love to meditate for your mental state. But take an active approach on your recovery. Don't just sit on your day off. Actually go out there and do things that are going to make your body better as you recover each and every week. I thank you all so much for listening to Trust and Believe, to listen to my journey. I hope you got a lot of information out of this, of things you can do to help you move forward. 1, being honest with yourself. 2, taking an active approach to make your body and mind better.